don't know why you're obsessed with defining it. Like, what is a man? Like, why do we need these arbitrary...
A man is a male adult human. I mean, that's it.
Right, OK. I don't know that we need
these are just biological facts, but they're just facts. They're not arguable points, are they?
Well, but I think we have a right to self-identify. And you said
you
want to...
As what?
If you'd like to be a woman, you can identify as a woman. I don't know why there is such an issue around
We've literally just seen a male rapist use that scam to get himself put into a female prison where he could attack vulnerable women inside a female prison, when even his ex-wife said it was all a scam.
Piers is referring to Isla Bryson, a transgender woman who was found guilty of raping 2 women before transitioning. She was moved from Scotland's all-female prison to a male facility after an intervention by Nicola Sturgeon, the former Scottish leader.
Which is a terrible, very distressing, isolated incident. And I think it's easy to take that and say that means that no one can identify as a woman.
But
and
it's not an isolated incident, though.
But it's
42% of trans-identifying prisoners in prison are in there for sex crimes. There's actually an advantage, evidently, to identifying as a female, because they never identify as male, because somehow male prisons seem less appealing to them. It's really weird. Anyway, but
is it limitless, this self-identity?
It's not totally limitless.
What's the limit?
When you're talking about International Women's Day, I don't know why we take the conversation around International Women's Day and make it about this.
But if anyone,
there's so many benefits.
Right, but if anyone, according to you, can identify as a woman, anyone can, right?
I don't see a problem with
just literally put their hand up and say, I'm a woman.
But it's not an easy thing to do, to go out into the world.
It's very easy.
Easy.
You might think it's easy to say, but to decide to do that, to say,
what
this
does
is
doing
who...
it involve?
Whatever that person decides, but to go out into the world and say, I don't identify as perhaps the sex I was born as.
So why can't I identify... OK, why can't I identify as a black lesbian?
Well, firstly, I mean, it was...
Well, I'm serious. If I can identify as anything without any need to prove I'm actually what that is, why can't I, on International Women's Day, say, I'm Piers Morgan, I'm a black lesbian?
I think taking it to a kind of absurd status,
I think
we're
that's
talking about quite a
with
strong
respect, I think that
change.
you'd already opened the absurdity door by saying it is limitless. You can do what you like. Anyone can say, I'm a woman. So I simply ask you, why can't I?
I mean, this point kind of ridicules trans people to an extent.
Actually, I think what you said ridicules trans people, because actually people who go through the full process of transition, who actually go through what we used to call a sex change, which I don't think you can muck around with original biology, but those who actually go through surgical procedure over a number of years, I've got great respect for that very difficult journey they go on. I have zero respect for people who just wallop their hand up and go, suddenly, I'm a woman and I want all the rights that a woman has and I want to compete, say, in sport. I'm a 6'4" athlete, sprinter, swimmer, whatever, who's competed very mediocrely in male sport. I now want to come in and crush women in swimming pools and in sprinting events and break all their records, perhaps irrevocably, just by saying, I'm a woman. I think that is the absurdity you were talking about.
The situation with Leah Thomas is a perfect example of just how absurd this woke world has become. Here, we have a biological male who decides to transition to female and then starts competing in women's sports. And guess what happens? Suddenly, Leah, who wasn't exactly a top performer in the men's events, starts winning in women's swimming competitions. It's as if the world has turned upside down, and we're all supposed to pretend this is fair. What's even crazier is the legal battle that followed.
Transgender American swimmer Leah Thomas's Olympic dreams have ended for the Paris Summer Games.
The court had to step in to decide something that should have been common sense from the start, that men and women are biologically different, and these differences matter in competitive sports. It's absurd that we even had to have this discussion. But this is the world wokeness has given us, a world where common sense is thrown out the window and we're all expected to accept whatever bizarre new rules the woke mob decides to make up.
My response was to say, well, if it's limitless, why can't I then say whatever I want to say? And you say immediately, as I knew you would, well, that's ridiculous. But my point is, you were being ridiculous.
Well, that's your opinion. You can think I'm ridiculous, but I don't think you can say, well, it has to.
I don't know why I am, but you're not.
I don't think you have to say it's post-op is the only way that someone's allowed to identify as trans.
The original standard
the
original standard for being transgender was being diagnosed with gender dysphoria, which is a legitimate condition. And now it's being, however way you feel. So if you feel on Tuesday you're a woman and on Thursday you're a pizza, that's perfectly valid. But to you, that's ridiculous. And I want to know why that is ridiculous. We should be talking about actual women on International Women's Day. That's not crazy.
I mean, I agree. But your idea of an actual woman...
chromosomes.
It's an adult female. It's not difficult.
The chromosomes are a pretty good indication.
I don't think you have to be biologically female to identify
Then
as a
you are
woman.
wrong, because then I can identify as a fox.
Yeah.
But again, it's a kind of absurd point.
How many? Well, let me ask you this, Angelika. How many genders are there?
2.
There are 2 genders.
Oh.
Wow. So you don't believe in transgenders at all?
Well, I think there are...
Whoa, hang on. Whoa. There are 2 genders?
Well, it's taught in...
Well, you say, well, you've literally just launched this huge defence of transgenderism. Now you've eradicated it.
I think
If there are 2 genders, you mean male and female, right?
There's gender fluidity. I will...
Fluid between what?
Between what?
Between different identities, and we can choose different
You
identities.
see how difficult this is, though?
But it is difficult, but I think making...
But it's not difficult until you make it difficult. You see, the BBC has done teaching videos to 11 and 12-year-olds where they say there are 100 genders. One of them was astrogender, which is an affinity with the stars and the galaxy. My response to that on the last show I did was to say, well, in that case, I identify as a two-spirit penguin. I was then told I was being ridiculous, but I made the same point. The ridiculousness is the BBC teaching kids there are 100 genders. There aren't. It is absurd.
This kind of thinking is not just absurd, it's harmful. It confuses children, erodes women's rights, and puts vulnerable individuals at risk. We've already seen the disastrous effects at places like the Tavistock Clinic in London, where young children were subjected to irreversible procedures, often without a proper diagnosis. Many of these children were simply confused or influenced by a culture that celebrates gender fluidity without considering the long-term consequences. This is child abuse, plain and simple. It is not progressive to push confused children into life-altering decisions. It is irresponsible and cruel. We must protect our children from radical ideologies that seek to undermine their development and well-being. On International Women's Day, we should celebrate real women, those who have fought for equality and rights, not those who co-opt the identity when it suits them. It is time for politicians and leaders to stop pandering to the loudest voices and start standing up for common sense. Women are not just a feeling or an identity that anyone can adopt. They are biological realities, and their rights deserve to be protected, not undermined. Until we can agree on what a woman is, perhaps we should reconsider the need for International Women's Day. After all, if anyone can be a woman, then what exactly are we celebrating? It is time for conservatives to take a stand against this madness and reaffirm our commitment to protecting women's rights in an age of wokeness. In the end, reality matters, and it's time we return to it.